function and we were all sitting in a group and there's this shrewd voice and it was the voice of a baby crying. All of us looked at the baby and we were like, oh shit, why is the baby crying? And we asked the mother, why is the baby crying? And the mother was like, maybe it's hungry or whatever. One small little 3-year-old kid went up to the baby and said, stop crying. He gave his own pacifier to the baby and said, stop crying. This is the essence of empathy. I always wondered why people question me all the time. This word called need was a very big trouble in my life. All the time. Whenever I was not a very well-versed student in English. So my parents joined me in Frank Anthony's and they were asked what is the need to join her in Frank Anthony and her English is so poor, what's the need? And my parents are like, it's okay, we want to give her the best education and that's why I was joined there. And later in 10th when I got 78% and I was like, I want to take up arts and all the people around me said, what is the need to take up arts? You've got 78%. Only people below 60% take up arts. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And then I'm like, okay fine, I take up commerce, okay fine. And as a good child I took up commerce and I knew I could shift if I wanted. So I took up commerce and second PU, I was so lucky enough to get 86%, but then I realized commerce is not my field. I was not passionate about it. Since 8th grade, I was very fascinated with this word called connection. How people connected. How a mother could hold a child. And in seconds, how does she actually get connected to that child? Maybe the whole world doesn't know why the baby is crying, but the mother knows why the baby is crying. And that is where the whole word of empathy came. And that's why my speech today is need for empathy. And recently I did a course called Transition to Adulthood and we had this one-to-one talk with my teacher and she said, Sanjana, what do you want to become? And I said, I want to do something where I'm really selfless because I've seen people selfish and I take this inspiration from my parents to be selfless. And she said, okay, how do you think it's being selfless? What do you want to do? I said, I want to be a social activist, I want to be a social worker, I want to be a best psychologist, I want to go around the world, I want to inspire, blah, 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 blah. Then my teacher said, pause. Pause. You're just going on and on and on. Do you realize people said, take commerce, and you went against everybody and took up BA. What do you think you did? That's a part of being selfish? Because you were following your own dreams? You went, you did everything. Because there was a need for you. She made me understand in this entire world, there was nothing called selfless. Even if a saint wanted to be selfless, he had to renounce, go against the whole world. And then I thought over all of her speech and what things she told me, then I'm like, it's very true. I always wondered in life about my dad always being contented. How is he contented? Because I'm one person who wants to do this, take over that, but he always said, be contented with whatever you do. That is ultimate happiness. And when I thought about my teacher speech, this is all I could say, contentment with empathy. I also wondered that where did two types of people come from? The good and the evil. At one side, I saw Gandhi, and on the other side, I saw Dawud Ibrahim, who doesn't care, who kills, and who goes about doing all sorts of bad things. And then I realized, aren't we humans? Why is he different than me? Why am I standing here and saying, I want to do this, I want to do that before people, but he's standing out there only killing. And this is when I was introduced to one of my great psychology teacher, and I asked her this question. She said, empathy. Empathy is of two types, affective and cognitive. Cognitive empathy is when you stand on other people's shoes, when you can think why the person is doing that. And affective empathy is when you can respond to a person in an appropriate emotion. And she said, like you said, Gandhi and down that time, Gandhi was more of cognitive empathy and affective empathy because he could think on other people's shoes, and that's why we could beat the rule of British. And he was also high in affective empathy. That's why he from South Africa came all the way to India, and then he wanted to give us freedom. But psychopaths or thou the brand were high in cognitive empathy because they could persuade or deceive, but they were low in affective empathy. Then I went to question of why are they low in affective empathy. She said maybe they would have gone across any maltreatment or any part of the brain which triggers empathy is lost. That's how much empathy is important. And my teacher was giving an example of a person called Derek who had persuaded 30 women to rape them. I said, and those 30 women were mad enough to go listen to him and go out with him. And then she said, no. He had the ability to persuade. That's how strong empathy is. So, as you know, psychopaths are low in affective empathy. And there's this one part of psychology where we studied about special children, that people who were autistic children. And I said, why do they keep hitting each other all the time? What's their problem? And my teacher said, just look at them closely, what they're doing. And my teacher said they're very strong in affective empathy. I was like, how? How do they even have empathy? She said, do they actually hurt any other person around you? They're so confused, they don't have cognitive empathy, but they're so strong in affective empathy, that's why they hurt nobody except themselves. So, psychopaths and autism people are mirror images. So that's what my teacher said. In this world there are many things, but anything that is most important is empathy. Even before love, empathy should be triggered. And my teacher gave me an example of two women called Rosie and Alex. Rosie's brother and Alex's brother, one was hit with a Palestinian bullet and another with an Israeli bullet. Instead of having the emotion of violence going against each other, they came across and they shared their views, shared the sorrow, empathy. And today, they're giving speeches saying that unless we empathize with each other, this war won't end. Believe what better world would it be if we had more people like Rosie and Alex. So, ladies and gentlemen, always have the need to empathize because everybody is fighting their own war inside and outside. Thank you so much.